and welcome to Today in Sport with your host Eyebrows Online. Today we're going to be talking about the recently announced rematch between KSI and Logan Paul. Saturday night's UFC, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Porier. And also we're going to be talking about the international break and what can be done to either sort of get rid of it or make it more smooth. Instead of being 4 games into a season and then going on an international break, what else we can do about that? So that's what we'll be going over today. So we're going to start off with the boxing match that's just been announced with KSI vs Logan Paul. It was announced earlier this week. It's going to take place on the 9th of November in the Staples Center in LA. The capacity at the Staples Center is about 21,000, so it's about the same as the Manchester event that they had. The last fight made around about $11 million. I would assume probably about $3.5 million for each competitor. The first fight ended in a draw. Logan dominated the first 2 rounds, but got tired really quickly. Like, I didn't expect that. I thought KSI would actually be the one to get tired quicker, but Logan got tired a lot quicker than KSI, and KSI managed to work his way back into the fight, and he started to dominate from about round 3 onwards. And in all honesty, I think KSI probably won that fight, but obviously it got deemed as a draw. This fight will be a little bit different. This fight they're going to be turning pro, as they say, turning pro. It's a bit of an overstatement. All that really means is instead of head guards and wearing 10-ounce gloves, they'll have no head guards and wear 6-ounce gloves. There won't be a 12-round fight. It will still be a 6-round fight, 3 minutes each round. So there's not really that much different, other than the fact that there's a bigger possibility of a knockout. Really, I think KSI's punching power probably is going to be quite a problem for Logan Paul, but we'll see how it pans out. I'll make predictions close to the actual fight. People did say that the last time it was a draw, we could have this rematch now, basically. Like, when the draw happened, everyone sort of had the same impression, but they both signed a 2-fight contract beforehand. So even if KSI had won or Logan Paul had won, they would have still done a rematch, and if anything, they would have pushed on to a 3rd fight, if that fight had went a different way. So I don't really agree with that. The fight is going to be hosted on a sports streaming service called DAZN, or DAZN. It's pronounced DAZN. It's a bit weird. They currently offer like a 20-month subscription, $20 a month subscription, and that's for the whole streaming service, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's for the whole streaming service. And that $20 that you would pay for the KSI vs Logan Paul fight, you would also get the Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz 2 match, which is taking place on the 7th of December, I believe. So obviously within that 30-day period, you'll get both fights for $20, which is actually really good, and it's good business for them as well. They're going to make a lot of money from November to December, so that's really good. Eddie Hearn is the managing director of Matchroom Sports. They're the people putting together the fight. He's promoting the fight, put together the undercard, things like that. The undercard's really different from the last undercard. So the last undercard featured like Deji versus Jake Paul. It also featured like people like Faye Sensei and fucking Rossi HD and people like that. People are like YouTubers basically. But this undercard's going to be treated a little bit differently. So the rumours are that the WBO super middleweight champion, Billy Joe Saunders, who's undefeated, 28-0 with 13 KOs to his name, he's likely to be on the card. And also there's a rising talent, Devin Haney, who's also undefeated, 22-0, 14 KOs to his name. He's also touted to be on that card, which is really nice. It's a really good card. By the sounds of it, it's going to be a really good day for boxing, other than the main event, basically. But like, imagine being sort of, you're Billy Joe Saunders, you're a world champion, you're undefeated, 28-0, you're a fucking beast, and you're fighting on the undercard for 2 nerds on the internet. It's like, would you be happy about that? Like, imagine being Madonna and Rebecca Black's doing a concert and you're her opening act. Like, nah, you're not. It's not for you, is it? But Eddie Hearn's a really good promoter, to be fair, and I'm sure he's going to make him a nice little cut, and sort of, this fight will make more money than pretty much any fight in boxing for the rest of the year. So it's sort of it's a bit best of both for the fighters that are on the card. But I will give my predictions close to the time. It should be a really interesting fight, in all honesty. I actually am a little bit more excited for this one. Logan's had a bit more time to train. He's had an extra year or so to train. Obviously KSI's had an extra year to train. And KSI's lost a bit of weight. He looks a bit more shredded now. So yeah, that would be a good one. That would be a good fight. I am looking forward to that. And now on to the UFC on Saturday. It'll be UFC 242. The main event is the UFC Lightweight Championship up for grab between the undefeated champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's 27-0. Recently, well, not recently, a year ago, his last fight, I think it was in October or November, he beat Conor McGregor and then jumped the cage, got suspended for fighting with Conor's team. I'm sure you all know about that. He'll be taking on the interim champion, Dustin Porier, who beat Max Holloway for the interim belt earlier this year. Dustin Porier is 25-5 with one no contest. That no contest came against Eddie Alvarez not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 fights ago. After Eddie Alvarez had hit him 3 times with illegal knees basically in the face whilst he was grounded. And after that fight, Eddie sort of said, "Oh yeah, Dustin was just trying to get out of fighting me, blah blah blah." So they had a rematch and Poirier won, and that put that to bed. The thing with this fight is so since Poirier lost to McGregor in 2014, he's only lost 1 of 11 fights, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, Khabib's 27-0, meaning he hasn't lost a fight ever, but he's beat a sort of who's who of the lightweight contenders now, and he's also beat the current UFC featherweight champion Max Holloway to win his interim belt. But the one fight that Dustin did lose in his sort of last 11 fights after the Conor fight was to a guy named Michael Johnson. Now, Michael Johnson is a guy that Khabib famously beat at UFC 205 when Conor beat Eddie Alvarez for the title. Khabib fought on the undercard against Michael Johnson and spent the majority of the fight with Michael Johnson up against the cage, smashing his face, saying things like, "You need to give up, Michael, you need to give me this title shot." And even in between rounds, he was talking to Dana White, saying to Dana, "I'm going to smash Conor McGregor," basically. So the fact that he beat Poirier and Khabib so easily beat him sort of makes you question whether Poirier has any chance whatsoever. So Khabib is the clear favourite going into the fight. He has dominated Johnson and McGregor, who both beat Poirier, and nobody seems to find a way to sort of counter Khabib's pressure and his ability to just be able to take opponents down and just fucking smash him and keep him there. The counter argument to Khabib's record, though, is the fact that other than McGregor, he hasn't really fought any real top contenders. I mean, he beat Al Iaquinta for the interim belt. He beat Michael Johnson, as I've said. The only real contenders he's beaten is RDA, but everyone's beaten Rafael dos Anjos by now. Johnson, obviously, and Edson Barboza, who's fighting Paul Felder on the undercard of this actual card on Saturday. But he's really known for his striking, Barboza. He's not really a wrestler. He's not really ever troubled anyone on the ground, and it was kind of a one-dimensional victory sort of thing. It was very clear he was going to win, and he did. Poirier, on the other hand, he's sort of really grinded his way to get to where he is now. He's beat Eddie Alvarez, he's beat Justin Gaethje, and he's just sort of Max Holloway, and he's just beating everyone who they put in front of him. So it's kind of difficult to be like, "Oh yeah, Poirier lost to Johnson, and he lost to Conor, he's got no chance," when Khabib's only ever really beat Conor and his, you know what I mean, his 2 biggest scalps are not that great. McGregor's a great one. Yeah, fair enough, you beat McGregor, but everyone else on that list isn't really that wonderful, in all honesty. So not only is Dustin a much better striker than Khabib, but he also appears to have more to fight for. His heart seems to be more invested in this, a lot more than Khabib's is. Khabib's talked a lot about he wants to fight the best of the best now, but he also seems to be talking about retiring soon. He does sit down, how many more fights he's got, and I don't know, Poirier just seems a lot more up for it. So Khabib will have his dad in his corner for the first time since joining the UFC. Every fight that Khabib's fought for the UFC has been in USA. His dad hasn't been able to fly over due to visas, so he hasn't been able to corner his son. And I think that adds a lot more pressure to Khabib. He's not felt this sort of pressure before. He's going to be in the UAE, which is a largely Muslim country, largely Muslim area of the world, which means there's going to be a lot of fans for Khabib, given his background. He's also going to have a lot of friends, a lot of family. He's took 40 people with him just for training, just to fight. 3 of them are fighting, the rest of them are just there, sort of thing. So I I think Khabib wins. I think realistically Khabib wins, but I truly do believe that this could be the fight that Khabib loses. Like, I think if there's going to be a fight where Khabib loses, it's going to be this one. He's got this tendency to strike with his opponents for at least 3 or 4 minutes. Like, he likes to test himself. Like, am I as good as my opponent? And he strikes for 3 or 4 minutes of each fight, and that could be his downfall. Dustin loves to dirty box. He loves to be inside the pocket fighting. He loves to be fucking just swinging, basically. He loves to punch, and he don't mind getting punched back. And I think all it takes is one punch for history to be made, and I think that this could be the moment that history's made. Then you've got to then factor into it. So after Khabib and Poirier, the winner of that fight is going to fight Tony Ferguson. I think that's pretty clear. The winner's going to fight Tony Ferguson. They both said we want to fight Tony Ferguson when we win, which leaves Conor in the dark. So Conor will probably fight the loser of this fight. Now, realistically, I think the UFC would want Poirier to lose, Khabib to go on and beat Tony, Conor to go on and beat Poirier, Khabib, Conor fight for the title next year, probably in July. But at the same time, if Khabib loses, will Conor then go and fight Khabib whilst Tony Ferguson fights Poirier, and then the winner of those two match off? Conor and Khabib seems like a big enough fight that you don't need a title to sell it. Like, that is just rivalry. It's just two men who just don't like each other. And Khabib said multiple times Conor doesn't deserve a title shot. So if Khabib loses, he hasn't got any sort of pull. He can't say no. This is a number one contender fight to get back into the title picture. So I'll be really interested to see what happens this weekend. Also with Barboza and Felder, that'll be a really good match. The undercard is sort of underwhelming. I think Joanna Coldwood's fighting, which would be really good. But other than that, it's a little bit lackluster. So last thing I want to quickly go on to is the current state of football and the international break and things like that. Like, we're currently in the middle of the international break in football, meaning no good football to watch this weekend, really. Instead of, like, we're treated to the likes of Norway versus Malta, Bosnia and Herzegovina versus Liechtenstein, Cyprus versus Kazakhstan, England versus Kosovo. Like, these aren't fun fixtures. Like, the best fixture this week is Germany versus Holland, in my opinion. But that isn't even, like, that doesn't get me going. Like, Germany and Holland, obviously I don't support either team, but I don't support Liverpool and Man City. But if Liverpool and Man City were playing, I'd be excited. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit. I'm dead bored of the international qualifiers. I get that, like, footballers need time off in the summer, but I think it might make more sense if they just sort of smashed out like a month and a half just after the domestic season finished. So, like, the season could end at the beginning of May or like the end of April, with the Champions League final and Europa League final being played on even the last sort of few days of April, the first few days of May. Then the players could go away with their international team until maybe mid-June. They play, like, what do you think, like mid-June, like, so say they go first week of May, come back in the middle of June, that's 6 weeks. You could play 6 games, you could play 12 games in 6 weeks, for goodness sake. So there's only normally 5 or 6 teams in a qualifying group. So say you play 10 games, you could play 10 games in a month and a half, and then that leaves you free for the next, like, I don't know, I don't get why so if all the teams agreed to it, that it would prevent, like, key players getting injured in the middle of the season. So say, like, Harry Kane goes and gets fucking injured against Kosovo, or Tottenham are going to be like, well, there's our best player gone, we're now fucked for the next few months until he's back. And then it would also give, like, international managers more time to work with their squads, so to get a whole month to work with their squads instead of a week, which would be really good for them, obviously. They would see them less, but they would get more time with them. And most importantly, the fans don't have to put up with these breaks during the season. Like, teams are 4 games into the season and now we have a break, and it just seems really stupid. But as this doesn't seem to be something that will ever change, it's just sort of, there's at any point even arguing about it. Like, we're just going to have to put up with this shit season after season after season after season after season, and it's boring. It's so boring. I don't like international football. I like the World Cup, I like the Euros. I don't like the Nations League. What the fuck's the Nations League? I don't like friendlies. What the fuck are friendlies? So, look, international football is boring at the minute. I don't think it's ever going to change. I think they're trying to make it better, but it's not happening. And I do think there needs to be a solution to this. But as it's not going to change, I'm going to just jump into my accumulator for the international break, let you know what sort of teams I think are going to do well this season, well this week, and give you a sort of tenfold accumulator. And that'll be the end of the video. So I got Italy to beat Armenia. They're 27 to 100 odds to win. These are all with William Hill, by the way. I got Sweden to beat Finland, who are at 2 to 9. I got Spain to beat Romania at 47 to 100. I got Kazakhstan to beat Cyprus at 23 to 10. Basically, Kazakhstan are not in great form, and neither are Cyprus, but Kazakhstan are sort of a better footballing team, I believe, and I think that they will have the advantage over Cyprus. Austria to beat Latvia, which is surprisingly at 1 to 16 considering how bad Austria have been, but I think Austria quite easily beat Latvia. I have Holland to beat Germany at 5 to 2. Holland just got to the Nations League final. Germany have just been awful for the last year and a half. I've got England to beat Bulgaria at 1 to 14. Ukraine to beat Lithuania at 3 to 10. France to beat Albania at 1 to 12. And Portugal to beat Serbia at 23 to 20, despite the fact earlier in the qualifiers they did draw 1-1 and Portugal were home that game. I still think the likes of Bernardo Silva, Cristiano Ronaldo, Andre Silva, just the depth that they have, Ruben Neves, Pizzi, players like this, Rui Patricio, players like this are going to be able to sort of outplay Serbia. Like Serbia have a few good players. They have Tadic, I think they have Milinkovic Savic. They do have a decent team, but I just don't see them beating Portugal. A £10 bet on that accumulator will give you £908 returns. So that is that basically. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you all soon.